وتدعوك المنون دعاء صدق. ألا يا صاح أنت أريد أنت، أراك تحب عرسا ذات خدر. أبت طلاقها الأكياس بتا، تنام الدهر ويحك في غطيط بها، حتى إذا مت انتبهتا. فكم ذا أنت مخدوع وحتى، متى لا ترعوي عنها وحتى. أبا بكر دعوتك لو أجبتا، إلى ما فيه حظك لو عقلتا.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره، ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له، ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه أمهات المؤمنين، وعلى من اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, I'm your host Karim AbuZaid, and I come live from Denver, Colorado. The weekend is always our edition Ask Imam Karim live show. And today, brothers and sisters in Islam, we will be having two segments. One segment with Dr. Tahir Wyatt, who will be joining us momentarily. And another segment, inshallah, with Imam Muhammad Dewey, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, that will be 3:30 my time. I'm sorry, 2:30 my time, 3:30 Central, and 4:30 Eastern Standard Time, inshallah. Obviously, brothers and sisters in Islam, our show tonight is on the mounting and developing story of the death of George Floyd. We may say the murder of George Floyd, and the situation we have in the US now with the looting and the protest and the anger. And brothers and sisters in Islam, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We have not sent you, O Muhammad, but as mercy to mankind, to everybody. And Islam, brothers and sisters in Islam, came to solve issues like this. And we know that when Islam actually came, and I mean by Islam the mandate at the hand of the Prophet ﷺ, because we know Islam has been always the religion. There was existing bigotry and discrimination and slavery, to the extent of slavery. And Islam came in a way and treated that and made all these boundaries between human beings vanish. Let me invite Dr. Tahir Wyatt in and see, inshallah, where we go from here. Bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. I'd like to call him. Okay, let me see here. And inshallah, we'll bring Dr. Tahir. Okay, inshallah. So we're calling our dear Dr. Tahir Wyatt. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Tahir.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, Dr. Tahir? I miss you, wallahi.
Hayak Allah, I'm good, alhamdulillah.
Let me bring you into the screen here, so we're together, inshallah, side by side. We ask Allah to always unite us on the truth.
Ameen, Sheikh.
How are you, Sheikh
You,
Tahir?
you went green screen today, but nobody's messing around in the background. Last time you looked like you at the Prophet's message, Sheikh.
I know, but you know they always change it on me, my admin. But yours is nice too today. Alhamdulillah, Sheikh.
بوركت يا شيخ.
Alhamdulillah. كيف
حياكم
حالك
الله
شيخ طارق؟
حياكم الله. الحمد لله الحمد لله
الحمد
نحمد
لله.
الله نشكره.
عيدكم مبارك يعني تأخر لكن بالعافية.
الله يحفظكم ويتقبل منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال.
Dr. Tahir, I know your time is very limited and you have other, and I will keep my promise, inshallah.
لا بأس لا بأس الحمد لله. Sheikh, are you live streaming?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay.
So you are live. Yes, you are
Okay.
live actually, and without any further introduction, if I may get you, we have two issues here: the killing. People like to call it the death. I like to call it the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And then the looting and the state we are in right now. So I guess we have two issues to address: a white man killing an African American, the stereotyping and all of that, and discrimination and race. Can you get us enlightened on where Islam stands on the subject of race and discrimination and colors and all of that, Doctor?
الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك وأنعم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. There's so much that can be said on this topic, and I guess that beginning with the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He tells us in the Quran, يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله يتقاكم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and we have made you tribes, nations, and peoples so that you could get to know one another. The most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the one who has the most taqwa, is the one who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most, the one who is most conscious of his Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, building on that, our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, in one of his most famous sermons, and that is Khutbatul Wada', his farewell sermon on his farewell Hajj, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam emphasized this point, and he told this ummah that there is no fadl for an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab, or a black person over a white person, or a white person over a black person, except with taqwa. The bottom line is that our gauge, how we look at who is better than another person, that gauge is taqwa. It's not based on ethnicity. It's not based on race, which is actually different than ethnicity, right? Because race is a social construct, and a lot of people don't really understand that. A person who in America may be considered to be a black person, in Saudi Arabia may be considered to be white. Now, a lot of people can't understand that, but it's because race is a construct, is a social construct, and it's different from ethnicity. So that being said, when we look at the concept, we don't deny that people are of different ethnicities, but that's not how we judge them. And so that is, when we come from the Islamic standpoint, something that we have to look at. And there's so much more that can be said on that particular topic. The Prophet ﷺ said to one of his companions, who had said to another one of his companions, he said, Ya ibn as-Sawda, and you son of a black woman, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, Inna fika jahiliyyah. Now you have some traits, of jahiliyyah. Like that's before Islam. That's not something that is acceptable from the Islamic standpoint.
I'm sorry.
Publish it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is it Abu Dharr and Bilal, or
Nah.
we know the root of the hadith in Muslim, but it doesn't name. But
Yeah, and the reason why, and subhanAllah, Shaykh Karim, you'll see this throughout the Sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. Sometimes you'll find in the more authentic narrations, they won't name the people for two reasons. Number one, so that we maintain the let's just say the dignity of the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that nothing comes in our minds that we would look at them as being anything less than what they are. They are people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about them, radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them and they are pleased with him. If a person reaches rida Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's nothing after that. In fact, the people of Jannah, when they are given everything that they could possibly imagine, anything that they could ask for, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked them, should I give you more? And they said, what more can we get than this? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the ridaya, or my pleasure, so that I would never askhat alaykum abadan. I would never be angry or displeased with you after that at all. I mean, that's the greatest ni'mah of all, the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So anyway, so that's one thing, just to keep the status of the companions. The second thing is that the lesson does not need names, right? We get the lesson from this hadith without knowing who exactly the Sahabi was. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So the point here being is that our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam clarified that judging people based off of the color of their skin is jahiliyyah. Period. There's no other way to look at it. And so this is something that's very important for us to understand. I think that. And so that was your first question, right, Sheikh?
Yeah, but
I don't want to go. I don't want to go too far.
Fine, but let me. Is it fair, Dr. Tahir, to accuse all the white police officers of racism?
Of course not.
Okay. Yeah.
Painting anybody with a broad brush is not fair, right? So if we were to come and say, all the white police officers in America are racist, that would be totally unjust. I mean, I'm sure we probably know personally white police officers who are not racist. At the same time, to ignore that there is actually a system that is a problem, right? So we're seeing, okay, this week is George Floyd. The week before is somebody else. The year before it's Michael Brown. The year before it's Eric Garner. And then after that and before that, and hundreds of unarmed black people being killed by white cops. Are we accusing all of them of racism? No.
There is a trend.
Yeah. But when you see a trend, right, it really doesn't, for us, I think as Muslims, the issue is looking at justice. Because all of this comes under the category of dhulm.
No.
And as Muslims, we're supposed to be people who stand for justice. And it doesn't matter because unfortunately, Sheikh Karim, we have two ends of the coin here. We have some of our own who are uneducated, right? And so they just have a disdain for the whole system. And they say, and rightly, they may bring up that, why are you getting mad about a black person who's being killed by the cops, and you're not mad about the Muslims who are being oppressed in India? Right, yeah. You're not mad about the Rohingya Muslims who are, subhanallah, have been the genocide of, that has pushed them out. The Muslims of Palestine who have faced decades of oppression, right? And then they say,
Kashmiri Muslims now.
The Kashmiri Muslims, right?
Yes.
I mean, to the end of it, Sheikh, subhanAllah, you look at the oppression that is facing the Muslims around the globe. And so they say, well, how can you come and, you're getting upset about one black person who was killed and he's not even Muslim. And it's like, no, we got a time out here. We got a time out. We who live in America, this thing hits us close to home. And it's oppression, no matter what way you look at it. It's transgression, it's tughyan, and it's people going beyond the limits. And if we feel like we can just be spectators and just sit on the sidelines and watch it play out. And we don't feel any way about it. And we're watching this munkar because it's munkar. This is evil. It comes under that broad category of being unjust and injustice. If we don't speak out about it, then what's going to happen is that we're going to be the next victims. I mean, the other thing is that should we be also talking about, what is happening to the Muslims around the world? Absolutely, right? But this is the reality of how the American system works. If we're an insular community, we're not involved in anything else, and we just kind of act like, we're our own community and we don't have anything else to do with the community around us, we're not going to have a voice to even talk about what's going on, with the Muslims in other places. Of course, we can still make dua, and dua is a powerful weapon of the believers. But when we talk about making social change, we have to be a part of the system in which we live, or the community overall in which we live.
Islam, Dr. Tahir, as you teach us that came actually to treat racism and in an existing Arabia at the time. And we find ourselves, Muslims living in America, and we benefit from America as Muslims. This is the place where we live and have children. And we want it to be a better place for all of us. And that should be our...
Saying that right there, we want America to be a better place for everybody.
Yes.
Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, when he went into Mecca, he said, رَبِّ جَعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا.
No.
Oh my Lord, make this a safe place. This was one of his first du'as upon entering Mecca. Because wallahi, if you have chaos and violence and so forth, how can a person truly practice their faith? Those are not the ideal circumstances. Let's just put it like that. Those are not the ideal circumstances to be able to practice your faith, to raise the next generation in a manner that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to construct the houses of Allah, to call to Allah. In fact, Allah Azza wa Jal called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, right? He called it Fatham Mubina, a manifest victory.
No.
Who did they fight in Treaty of Hudaybiyah? Nobody.
Yeah.
But he called it a victory because it was peace. It established peace, which was what they wanted. Because with the peace, then the Prophet ﷺ and the companions, they don't have to worry about defending themselves. They don't have to worry about defending Medina.
Just to enlighten a lot of the viewers, Surah Al-Fath, brothers and sisters in Islam, was actually revealed right after the Truce of Al-Hudaybiyah was established. A lot of Muslims, especially the Arab Muslims, subhanAllah, mistakenly, for a while I thought that it was revealed because of Fatih Mecca, because of the...
Right.
And that's...
Right, so this is actually the...
2 years earlier. Yeah.
Two years before Fatih Mecca, and this was the 48th chapter of the Quran.
Right.
So for those who want to go back and just read it for themselves, and the point is that Allah Azza wa Jal called it a manifest victory. There was no fighting. Right. In fact, if you look at the treaty, it actually looks like it's
Omar is the ideal example.
Right, it looks like it's in favor of Quraysh and against the Muslims.
No.
But the fact that the fighting stopped and it was peace, right? The Muslims felt safe. Now we can call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without any obstacles, right? So we as a people, if we're going to follow the prophets of Allah and our Allah Azza wa Jal told our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ittabi' millata Ibrahima hanifa, follow the way of Ibrahim, his millah, his deen, hanifan, which was ma'il, yani an shirk ila tawheed, yani that he moved away from shirk and towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the pure worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. He told our Prophet to follow Ibrahim. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he says upon entering Mecca, make it safe. Ya Rabbi, make it safe. Right? So we're looking where we are, if we're Muslims, that safety should be a concern.
No.
And not just for the Muslims, but for the land.
Yes.
As a whole.
Jazakallah khair. Dr. Tahir, I recall that incident. I think it's Muwatta Malik, if I'm not mistaken. when the Prophet ﷺ sent Abdullah ibn Rawaha to assess the taxes of a certain community in Medina, without naming, and they tried to bribe him, and this may ignite your hate towards the individuals. And he actually said that. He actually said, this made me but you know what, I'm going to be just and fair. Islam in a way differentiate, because some individuals living in America, they are somehow ingrained into racism because of the way that they were brought up. But Islam draws the line between what you have in your heart and the way that you treat others. Can you shed some light on this, please? Because somehow, somewhat, the love or may not come handy. Some people actually struggle to come out of the way that they were brought up.
Right. Well, the bottom line is that the Prophet ﷺ,
I guess the verse says, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَى أَلَّا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى.
Yeah. So even if we look at prior to that, because that's in Surah Al-Ma'idah.
No.
And Surah An-Nisa, Ya ayyuhan nas kunu qawwamina bil qisti. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qisti shuhada'a lillah. Walau ala anfusikum. Right? And this is the ayat An-Nisa. Oh, you who believe, stand firmly for justice. Stand firmly for justice. And subhanAllah, it's clear, right? And Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that when one of you hears Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, then give it his full attention, lend your ear to it totally. So we can't just roll over these ayat and act like they're not there. Stand firmly for justice, witnesses for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if it is against yourselves or against your parents or against your relatives. Now, who does that? Who goes to court and testifies against themselves, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here is telling us to be people who stand firmly for justice. And then in the ayah of Ma'idah, to stand for Allah and be witnesses, witness things justly, be fair in the way that you witness.
Did you watch that video of George Floyd yourself? I know it's
La ilaha illallah. It's disturbing, man.
Yeah.
And so okay, so I'll tie it into that point, which is that if you witness it, right, which I mean, you're actually watching, subhanallah. I think the part that was most disturbing is that he had his hand in his pocket. If you have your hand in your pocket and you're sitting on, you're kneeing on you got your knee on somebody's neck, that means you're not under duress. You're not fearing for your life. You're not. So the aggression was totally unwarranted. It was totally unwarranted, right? So what you see from that is that there had to be something going on in this man's head that made him feel like it was okay to do a slow execution of a man on camera, right? Like what's actually going on through his head? So, like you mentioned, it's because people have been programmed a certain way to totally devalue the life of these people, right? So, it's not just black people. They devalue the lives of other people who are just not like them at all, even if they're brown or different shades of brown, right? So how do we deal with that from an Islamic perspective? The first thing is, I think it's very important for, number one, for every Muslim who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who believes in Allah and the last day, to do a real assessment of themselves and say, where do I stand on this issue? Do I really believe, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, that there's no fadl, and there's no virtue that a white man has over a black man or a black man has over a white man, except with taqwa? Do I really believe that? And if not, how do I overcome my own prejudices, my own biases? Acknowledge the fact that racism exists, because some people act like it's not a thing.
Even in our own communities, Dr. Tahir, many times I hear a lot of brothers, especially from the African American community, they depicted Islam the way that Malik Shabazz, when he traveled, but when they go into our masajid and they see the Urdu speaking with the Urdu, even though we all speak English and the Arab speaking, they feel in a way. So we have it even in our own community still.
That's one manifestation of it. So people feel ostracized in these other communities when they go. You can leave it. When they go to the other communities, they feel ostracized because they don't feel welcomed. But it definitely goes beyond that. So some people, and why the reason why I'm telling you it goes beyond this, it's not just about skin color. Even the Africans who migrated to America look at black people in America differently. Why can't you all get ahead? Why are you living in abject poverty? Why, you guys don't study hard enough. You don't work hard enough. You don't, right? I mean, these are all stereotypes that exist, or these are just violent people, or to the end of it. And, look, this stuff has been ingrained in the American mind for time, and I'm telling you, based on studies, there are books that white supremacists read until today.
Well, they still exist. I mean, they're still there. I mean,
I'm saying that this is an education that has been put into the system. It's not just, if you look at representation, it wasn't until very recently that you could find positive images of black people in mainstream media. I mean, so it's a very, look, I don't want to go into a whole long spiel, but racism is a lot deeper than just the fact that I won't marry this guy to my daughter because of his skin color. It's a lot deeper than that. It's a lot deeper than that. And racism, I mean, just to Sheikh Karim, if you'll allow me, some of the scholars that deal with this topic, I'm talking about sociologists and so forth, they break it down. They say, look, you've got interpersonal racism, right? So that's the way that this group looks at that group, the way that white people look at black people, the way that Latinos may look at white people and vice versa. And so there may be racism there. Then there's internalized racism, which is real for a lot of people. So they themselves have views about themselves that have been taught to them by the dominant culture of society. And so they look down on themselves. They may look down on their own people. That's internalized. There's what now they are calling institutional racism, systemic racism, right? So it's built into the system. SubhanAllah. And this is real. The way that certain schools will not, accept a person because of the color, or they give preference to a white student over a black student, or a white student over a Latino student, and so forth.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and then the last thing is structural racism. So it's all of the hundreds of years of that here in a society that now make it so difficult for a person to overcome, the disadvantages of being of a particular race.
Can you just shed some light on the reaction? You got people who were quarantined for almost 2 months, and then there is some financial economy issues in the country, and then now you see people reacting, taking advantage of a situation in a bad way. I mean, like they say, too bad do not do good, too evil do not do good. And
two wrongs don't make a right.
Right.
Well,
there you go. Yeah.
So that's correct. And what's happening? I mean, vandalism, shattering windows, setting police cars on fire. I figure this shit. Who pays for police cars?
The taxpayers.
The taxpayers, right? So I'm going out and burning I paid for it, now I'm burning it. I mean, but you got to understand something. What drives a people to that? What you're hearing is these people crying because it's like a baby, right? The baby can't tell you I'm hungry. Baby can't tell you I need my diaper changed. Baby can't tell you whatever else might be wrong. They're in pain. So they just cried. Actually, these people, we as a whole, we don't know what to do about this situation. You're seeing, like literally seeing a person get executed on social media, slow death too, not a shot, not one of the ones where the police officer could come and say, I thought he had a gun and so he shot him. And no, he put his knee on his neck and he just
if a
sat
million books were written to describe that 10 minutes video, I don't think it would have done any justice to.
No, and that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, you get at people now who are watching just the execution of an individual by people, and that's another problem. I mean, you see people get executed, but by the state or somebody who's supposed to be protecting you. That for a lot of people, they don't know what to do about it. And so what do? They're crying. That's what they're doing. When they go break those windows and stuff like it doesn't justify it. I'm not trying to justify what's happening.
Understand,
But let's also not switch the narrative to the protest and forget why they're protesting, right? And then we have to look at constructive ways of addressing this issue. And because you don't want to do, there's two things you don't want to do. You don't want to go down and join a protest and start looting places. Like here in Philadelphia last night, it was crazy. I mean, besides the fact that they, were lighting cop cars on fires. They were going into commercial institutions, breaking the windows, looting the place. You see guys walking down the street with, Nike shoe boxes. And it was crazy. Now, interestingly enough, according to the police themselves, the people who were doing the looting and the people who they arrested, they're not even from Philadelphia. So we have to ask ourselves, where are these people coming from? But for what? And what are they trying to do? And what is their main aim? Are these people working for other entities and trying to take away the spotlight on what actually happened?
Right.
And now put the spotlight on the looting itself. And then, this agent provocateurs and this type of stuff, this is long time tactics of certain agencies. But the point,
America is afraid of Sharia, Dr. Wyatt,
they've been ways to campaign against that.
And here is protection of the soul, that's George Floyd, and the protection of the wealth, the individual wealth, which is looting. Imagine, Islam offers ways to deal with that state of chaos.
Islam also empowers the victims. Right. So when we look at the Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَلَكُمْ فِي الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. When I was younger, I saw a button one time. I used to own a button actually. When people used to wear buttons back in the day, you might, I don't know if you were in America yet. No. This was like back in the 80s, man.
I was in the farm in Egypt.
So people used to wear buttons to make like political statements. So this button said, how can you kill people to show people that killing people is wrong?
Allahu Akbar.
How can you kill people to show people that killing people is wrong?
Profound.
But it is profound. But let me tell you something. They were actually speaking out against capital punishment.
Oh,
okay.
No, that's not profound then.
No, but stay with me. So what they want to say is, as the state, they were against the death penalty. Now, but stay with me. I think that because they're looking at the way that America institutes the death penalty, which is disproportionately against people of color, which a lot of times is without substantial evidence, which many times, based on later evidence now, like because there's a lot more the ability to test the DNA and things like that, you find that there are people on death row wrongly convicted. I mean, they're ready to go kill people who didn't actually commit a crime. Then in the American context, fighting against death row may be something that's a good thing. But now look at this from an Islamic perspective. We say no. Killing that person who killed somebody is actually saving life.
A lot of life.
It's saving life. Subhanallah.
وَلَكُمْ فِي
الْقِصَاصِ حَيَاتٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. There's life in this fair retribution. So somebody might come and say, wait a minute. This guy killed somebody. Now you killed him. So now two people are dead instead of just one person. What do you mean there's life? As the scholars of tafsir have mentioned, the ruling itself has stopped so many people from doing their initial impulse, which may be, I'm just going to kill this guy. And then they say, wait a minute. What's the punishment for killing? It's not dependent on, oh, you get a good lawyer, you can be out in 10 years. No. You kill somebody, this is going to be the retribution for that.
Is the right context of the usage of the term scare tactic the right context?
It's the right context. That's right, and it is.
Yeah.
So what happens is through qisas, through this fair retribution, then what happens is it serves as a rada, as a inhibitor, as an obstacle. It stops people from wanting to carry out their impulse. But stay with me, Sheikh Karim. But on the other side of that, let's just say it does happen. Let's say that somebody, they kill somebody. Who has the right to say, we don't want that person to die?
Waliyuddam.
Waliyuddam.
No.
The person who, the Waliyuddam, he's madloom. Yani his family member, or her family member for that matter, was killed, correct? So what happens then, so this person is on the side of the oppressed. And now the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empowers that person. Because now they have the power to either say, you know what, I want to see that victimizer dealt with. I want to see that person who oppressed me dealt with by the state. Or they can say we forgive them, we'll take the blood money. My point in saying all of that is that there are a lot of Muslims who want to know what they can do about all of this. And I feel like one of the things that's not being done enough, a lot of people say, oh, we identify with the victim, right? But the reality is are you addressing the victimizer? You live in the suburbs. You went to school with the dominant society, the victimizers, the oppressors. You know them. You work with them. Are you addressing them? Are you talking to them about this problem? Yeah, it makes me happy to see some very prominent people in this society speak out against what they've seen and speak out against the institutional racism. But in the Muslim community, we have to do better. I mean, we have to be. Our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, "Man ra'a minkum munkara falyughayyirhu biyadihi." Right? Whoever from amongst you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. If you don't have the authority, you're not somebody. It's not under your jurisdiction. فَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. And whoever cannot do it with his hand, then let him do it with his tongue. Use your pen. Speak out against what's happening. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ. And even if a person can't do that, فَبِقَلْبِهِ. Then with his heart, yani let him not like what he's seeing. Let him not, be totally disengaged and just say, forget about it. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. That is the weakest of faith. If we're not bothered by what we're seeing, or in fact, we say we don't care. I've actually, somebody sent me some clips of Muslims just saying, I don't care about what happened. That to me shows that there's something lacking in faith. Allah Azza wa Jalla said, "Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat lin-nas ta'muruna bil ma'ruf wa tanhauna 'anil munkar." You are the best nation that has been brought forth for mankind. But what's the first thing that he mentioned? That you command that which is good and you prohibit that which is munkar. And again, our deen revolves around this concept of justice. The ultimate justice, ya Shaykhi. Ultimate justice is tawheed.
No.
Right?
No.
But that's the justice that's between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his servant. No. And the ultimate injustice is shirk.
No.
Yani that we associate a partner with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though he's the one who created us. But again, the deen revolves around that.
Right.
So this concept of justice is super important, from the Islamic perspective. And we recognize justice as being something that is between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even ourselves, the way we react with ourselves, right? So what did Salman radiallahu ta'ala anhu tell Abu Darda radiallahu anhu? Inna li badanika alayka haqqan. Your own body has a right over you. You have to be just to yourself. but then also just with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is not just some internal thing. Yani we can't be like certain groups, where they distinguish between themselves and the Gentiles. Yani when it comes to justice, justice is established with the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even with animals, even with the environment, al-jamadat, yani things that are not even living. There's a level of justice that we have to have with them. Wallah.
I know we have just a couple of minutes.
Yes.
Can you give us action plan if you are an individual living in a community which is shattered by the racism, by the what can you do as a Muslim within the larger community, not just your own community?
I think that we have to. I mean, it's difficult right now in the COVID era, right? But I think that we have to open our doors and listen.
No.
Wallahi, we have to be willing to listen. Don't think. Why do we feel like we have the answers for everybody else? The reality is that most of our communities are somewhat mixed, right? Even if the majority of the masjid is let's just say is a Pakistani majority, or it is, some type of Philistini, Egyptian mixed majority. There's still African American people who come to your masjid, right? Hear them out. Open up the door, right? Hear them out. And then the broader community. What can we do? What can we do to help the cause as a whole? What do you want to see from us, right? But the ultimate solution, Sheikh Karim, is to talk to them about the beauty of Islam.
No.
We've gotten away from that. You mentioned Malcolm X earlier, and I forget exactly the reason why you were talking about Malcolm X, but Allah yarhamu. One thing that he talked about on Hajj, he said that Islam offers the solution to the race problem in America. And that was echoed by other authors who said that Islam offers the solution to the two biggest problems in America, the race problem and alcoholism. So when you look at it, Islam, we have solutions.
Oh,
right?
100%.
The issue is where we have to be a little more active in taking those solutions to people and saying, look, this is where Islam stands on the issues of race and racism, on the issue of judging people and creating almost a caste system, which shouldn't exist. But, we don't call it a caste system like they had or still have in India, but it is what it is. It's basically like if you're born with a certain skin color, then you're at this level of the totem pole. Again, so in terms of an action plan, here's the thing. We have to first acknowledge that there's a problem. We can't go around and saying, oh, no, I'm a Muslim and I believe in everything the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm colorblind, but behind closed doors, because astaghfirullah, this is what happens. Behind closed doors, you shouldn't hug a black person because they're najis.
You have a leftover of jahiliyyah.
Who had mumtaz? Leftover jahiliyyah. No. Leftover jahiliyyah. So the first thing, we have to admit that there's a problem. We have to be educated, right? We have to take steps to interact with with the people in our own masjids who have for too long not been heard. Understand their pain and say, look, what do you believe are some of the solutions to these problems? Hear them out, inshallah ta'ala, and come up with collective solutions. Wallahi, let me tell you something, Sheikh Karim. I think that if there was a quick answer and we could just all come up and we could just say, yeah, this is the solution to the problem, wallahi, it would have been solved already.
No.
This is a problem that took a long time to develop.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time to unravel. I think we have to be more proactive. We need to be involved with the community at large. We can't be these insular. Many of us have adopted monasticism. We become monks, right? And we just like, I'm just going to stay in the masjid. I'm just going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all day, every day, which is beautiful, alhamdulillah. It really is a beautiful thing to be able to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that wasn't the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And Allah azza wa jal, actually, towards the end of Surah Al-Hadid, he spoke out about the Christians who became monks, the followers of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam. ابتدعوها.
ما
That is
كتبناها
bid'ah.
عليهم.
They were the ones who
Yeah.
invented it and brought it into the religion. It wasn't, we didn't write that for them. So you don't divorce yourself totally from the dunya. You can't do that. You live in a society. Be a part of it. Be an agent of change. The Prophet ﷺ told us as Muslims, when you see something that's not right, change it.
No.
He didn't say sit on the sidelines and watch stuff happen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
But use the protocol of changing, kindness and legality and all. I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then to you for we really wanted to hear from you on this issue, and it was enlightening. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Tahir, and
بورك الله يحفظكم إن شاء الله يكون بين اتصال إن
شاء الله بإذن الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله يحفظكم وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
جزاه الله خير دكتور طاهر.